Hey everyone, Alexis Garcia with PJTV here at the Women Working for Change conference in Washington, D.C. And right now I'm joined by Wyoming Congresswoman Cynthia Lummis. Now you spoke about this being such an important election, and as we see, the American debt has surpassed $15 trillion. You've actually wanted to go big on debt cuts, $4 trillion. Do you think though that the supercommittee can even come to agreement on $1 trillion in cuts?
You know, it will now surprise me if they are able to come up with the 1 or 1.2 trillion that they're required to come up with. And that's because most of the members that I've spoken with have said that they would rather have no plan than a bad plan. And at this point, which is just days before their deadline, there just doesn't seem to be enough agreement on what would constitute a good plan. In some ways, I believe it would be easier to come up with a bigger, more comprehensive plan than the small plan, because when you go big, then you're really able to get into the real drivers of our debt, which is, of course, our entitlement programs, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. And if we can get into those, and Republicans, such as myself, are willing to put a little revenue on the table along with that, then we're talking. Then we're really getting into the $4 trillion plus numbers that are needed to bend this trajectory of debt. And so in some ways, I think it would be interesting to spend December here trying to develop a go big plan prior to the projected sequestration or cuts associated with defense and non-defense spending programs that kick in if we can't agree.
I think a lot of Americans will like to see Congress actually go big, but it seems like the talks have stalled over actually getting more revenue. Democrats want to raise taxes. Republicans have pledged, they were elected into office to not. But do you think that that is on the table? I mean, do we face no other choice?
I do believe that Republicans have been willing to put non-tax rate increases, but additional revenue on the table. We've seen a plan leaked from the supercommittee that includes some revenue and includes some spending cuts that actually do meet the goals of the supercommittee. But it's a leaked plan from the Republicans. There's been no plan from the Democrats. And until they're willing to put a plan on the table, we're going right back to last summer, where John Boehner was trying to negotiate with President Obama, and President Obama would not put a plan on the table. And every time that John Boehner came up with a different plan, the president would move the cheese and raise the amount of tax revenue that he wanted in the deal. That's what was the deal breaker.
Well, not only did he move the cheese, but I mean, the Senate hasn't even passed a budget in over 900 days now. I mean, why do you think that they're putting off doing that?
I think that they've elevated politics over policy. I think that they will allow the economy to train wreck before they'll surrender the next election. And I just think that that's unconscionable. And I'm sorry that the politics has gotten so in the way of the best interests of the American people. I do really believe it's that bad. And so I would chide Harry Reid and the Senate. I would chide the Obama White House that is being run by its political wing rather than its policy wing for worrying more about their own reelection than about the American economy, which is heading straight towards, like the Titanic did, a rough ending.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely headed for a disaster. And you spoke of entitlement reform. I remember you speaking with PJTV actually when the health bill was in legislation. You actually worked in the Wyoming Supreme Court. We see Obamacare now going to the justices. What do you think the outcome will be of that?
Well, I think it may turn on whether Justice Kagan recuses herself or not. I think it's important that she consider recusing herself based on what we understand to be her past involvement in Obamacare. I am hopeful that they will find the individual mandate unconstitutional, and we believe that like the court in Florida, there was no severability clause in the bill, so it rises and falls on the individual mandate. It's going to be a very close decision. It will be a 5-4 decision, in my opinion. Which way that flips is anyone's guess.
Now, we're here at the Women Working for Change conference, and you had a great line this morning saying that the largest emerging market economy is the American woman. What advice do you have for conservative women that are becoming more active in their community?
Well, take your simple economic principles that you use when you balance your checkbook or sit down with your family and pay the bills. You pay the highest priority bills first when you don't have enough money to pay them all, but you continue to pay a little bit all the time, and you quit spending money on the things that you'd like to have but can't afford. And that's exactly what Congress needs to do. Quit spending money on things that would be nice to have but we can't afford, because if we ever couldn't afford them, it's a time when the national mortgage is underwater. Now, the entire output of the United States economy has been exceeded by its debt. So just like a home mortgage that's underwater, the U.S. economy is underwater. And it's time to get serious about cutting spending, both discretionary and entitlement spending.
Well, Congresswoman, thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure, Alexis. Thank you.